Happy birthday celebration. Party night, feel the vibration. Lights are bright, feeling alright. We're dancing till the morning light. Happy birthday celebration. Everybody get the temptation. Once again, this is your night, and everyone feels right. Happy birthday to you. May all your dreams come true. Yes, yes. Happy birthday to all of you celebrating birthdays. This is very, very special. We have birthdays coming left, right, and center. So we just want to say God's blessing to you from us here on WSTX AM 970 and keeping in touch. Happy birthday. All right, numbers again 340-773-0390, 340-773-0490. Now, you guys that like to send me messages on my phone on the middle of the show and also on Facebook, make sure that you call in, right? So many things going on again this week, but highly anticipating Monday as the legislature has some things on their agenda coming up. Um, Definitely waiting to see what will take place. I believe that Senator Maurice James has her bill, which will address allowing the government employees to be able to run for public office without having to take leave. And so many of us have been advocating that we wanted to see this for some time. Actually remember my mother advocating for that many years ago as well. And now we're here. So let's see what takes place. So definitely looking forward to that hearing that's taking place on Monday. I believe that date would be October 27th. Also, um, just an update for those of you who are interested in taking the next taxi operators class. Go ahead and reach out to the office just to make sure that you find out how you can register down at the Taxi Cab Commission. And there is a process, and you do have to provide some paperwork. And so I always encourage people to go early, find out what you need to provide so that you're able to have your ducks in a row for when the class starts. And you don't have to be calling, saying, "Oh, I would like to join the class after the class already started," right? Let's make sure that we hit the ground running and do the right thing. So I am feeling quite, um, I don't know what the word would be. I have been going and going and going 3 weeks straight without a break, but that's inclusive of holidays and weekends. But I'm built for it. But definitely happy about some things that are going on. Happy that at the Taxi Cab Commission we're able to continue pushing forward. The board is able to meet and have great discussions and make decisions seamlessly. And we are harmonious in working together. And so I just want to thank my fellow board members for being very supportive of the direction we're going, and also supportive of the acting executive director as she operates the offices to make sure that the people of the Virgin Islands has the ability to get great service. So shout out to them. I also have to say a shout out to um, the other day we worked in conjunction with the team at Government House for the VIPR event, and I just wanted to publicly thank uh, the staff that were right there and avail themselves to assisting. I don't have your names yet, but definitely the security team, the housekeeping team that was available there. You know, we worked closely with Ms. Eugenie Williams and Administrator Sanis, and I just want to say thank you for working seamlessly alongside the DOT team. It was a great event, and I want to say congratulations to you all on that. And so, also, we know that we have had now a few things happen, and we see that December 6th is approaching. And I know I have skipped the entire month of November, and that's the month I was born, but I'm going to get back to that. I just want to remind people that December 6th this year is, and every year, is Alicia Chucky Hansen Day. So I'm encouraging you all as a time comes around to keep her in your memory, to do something nice and kind for someone else. And let's see if we can make the day a beautiful day in memory of her and all the things that she did for the territory. So December 6th is actually her birthday. And so it will always be a special day in all of our hearts. But it's officially the Alicia Chucky Hansen Day. And I just wanted to put it on your radar before the time so that you prepare yourself for that day. And let's see what happens. But just throwing that out there. Now, there have been some things in the news, some cases that have been called, some back, forth, left and right. You know, I often think about that song, cent, 5 cent, 10 cent dollar, right? Because we're going left, right, and center. Long story short is we got a whole lot of rugudu going on, and we trying to stay on top and glide over the rugudu, right? Because what's in my purview right now is joy and happiness in a territory, positivity in a territory, great things happening, and acknowledging the great people that contribute to the culture of this place, and that is my focus. And there's no better time to acknowledge that than the Crucian Christmas Festival, which is rolling in to our scene in real time right now. We see that our royal court is going to be formulated soon as shows are coming up, and even in the schools they're having their shows as well. And so I encourage you to go out and support those different pageants that are going to be taking place in School Pride and also Island and Culture Pride that are going to be taking place soon. So make sure that you go and you buy your ticket, get your seat, and enjoy the talent of our young Virgin Islanders across the spectrum as they vie for their different titles. This is always a great time to see the hard work that our young people put in to represent us, right? So, so far, I see that Lumokal is having their pageant. I posted it on my page. So go and patronize, go and buy the tickets, whatever it is that helps to support the school. I'm always an advocate for that. You know, right now I am reigning Miss Carib Supreme for St. Croix Central High School. And so I am, yes, definitely a pageant girl. And but it is a great way. People think it's just a glitz and the light, but it is a really great way to showcase um, what is possible in a person and the way they could give back to the community, whether it's volunteering or going out and telling people about the Virgin Islands and all that we have to offer. It is a great opportunity to showcase that on a grand scale. And many of these pageant winners will be able to go out and represent us on other platforms. And so it's a great opportunity to be a part of the process, right? Let's support them. I know Miss St. Croix is the big show that everybody is like, what's gonna happen? And so I'm also looking forward to Miss St. Croix. I also look forward to the Calypso show, Soca Monarch. Of course, I've competed in Soca Monarch a few times. And this year, I think will just be as great, if not better, than the prior years. And so um, I reminisce on when the last show that I did alongside John B. And it was people like Reem, you know. And when the event was done, well, let me just say, because this has was supposed to be a story time for a while, and everybody, some people still walk up and ask, or about what happened with that show. And in the inception of even participating in that show, I had just lost my youngest brother. And, it's a funny way. I always tell you guys that people grieve in a different kind of way. And so, um, while it seemed like the world stopped around me, I didn't know what else to do except for throw myself into my music. And so I decided that I would pay tribute to him, my brother, by participating in the Soca Monarch. Because, truth be told, prior to his death, um, I was thinking of quitting doing music altogether. And he had a whole discussion with me about not quitting. So he's the reason that I continue to do music. So when I lost him after that, I um, I threw myself into the music in a different way. And so the Elizabeth you see now is part of that whole process of going through his losing him in the physical, because we always have them in a spiritual realm, but I had to deal with it in my own way. So I said, well, I would not be doing music if he had agreed with me and said, yeah, it's time to hang it up. Instead, he encouraged me, and I decided to continue to pursue music. And it's because of him now you're hearing all of this music that I've been doing. So, anyway, I decided that that is how I would take up my time um, in dealing with the loss, and I decided to join the Soca Monarch. So I had discussed it with John B, and who I knew from high school. We all knew each other going to St. Croix Central High School. And he came to share his condolences with me, and we were having a discussion in the middle of the night in my yard. And I told him the idea, and he agreed that that would be an awesome thing to do. So we worked together, and we decided to compete as a team, and that's how it started. Now, how it ended is a whole other story. But long story short is that it was epic from beginning to end. And, we all go through different things, and we grow, we learn from what we've gone through. And sometimes we're able to take the opportunity to utilize something that is devastating in our lives to do something great, right? And I look at that time as one of those examples of both of us going through things and being able to still perform in front of, uh, you know, hundreds of people. I want to say thousands of people, because that I never see that place so ram packed. You guys could go back to the video that's still going viral. There's a few of them out there. But I felt like at that on that night, I didn't feel like I was competing for anything. I was just letting it all out, pour out. And so that was the whole idea about it, speaking from the heart, performing and leaving it there. But people still approach me to this day and say congratulations and all of these things, and I had to let them know we didn't we did not win that night. Um, Actually, we didn't get a score that night, but um, I guess one day we'll find out exactly what took place. But I have no regrets. I felt like in that moment, just like how they talk about the phoenix, it was a rebirth for both John and I, and so we were able to grow and hit higher heights after that night. Um, People still approach the both of us about it, and it doesn't even matter if we don't even have to be in a territory. Sometimes he call and he say, somebody asked me this and that or told me this and that, and I'm like having the same thing happen to me when I go out in the States. People talk about that show. And so one of the things I think that we did on that night was elevated the show to another height. I mean, we did everything. It was like watching Universal or MGM production. We had fireworks, we had ambulance, we had a crane, we had casket, we had dancers. We had two set of dancers, right? The graduating class of Synchro Central High School, as well as the Charlita dancers. We worked very hard. We performed that routine in rehearsal over and over, day and night. We had fire breathers and throwers. We had moko jumbis. We brought festival, in our opinion, what we know festival to be, to life on that night. And we were proud of that. Despite what happened at the end, we were proud to be able to showcase what we could do. And so, setting a standard and seeing now, being able to sit in a crowd now or stand in a crowd now and see what the younger ones come up with is always a great feeling for me. I just feel like, when you hold a baby and you you make sure that they get their food, they get their nourishment, and the baby grows, right? And it's a great feeling to be a part of a process of something growing and seeing it grow and shine and influence others. And so I am happy for that. And so festival brings back a lot of great memories for me. I don't try to harp on anything negative. I don't harp on whatever else is happening, because at the end of the day, um, you have to find a way to push forward, right? Some people I know get sad during this time. People have experienced loss. All of us have experienced some sort of loss. However, it's how you deal with it moving forward. So I look at it like, um, November, though it's the time of my birth, right? And actually, my daughter, I have a daughter born November 3rd, and she'll be celebrating her birthday soon enough. But then, right after that, is the anniversary of my brother's death. And then his funeral was the day after my birthday. So there's a lot of different things that's on my mind. I don't really make a big fuss about my birthday, to be honest. So my birthday is November 19th. And it will come and it will go. And I pray to God that I make it to that date, because we never know, right? But um, this time of year is just so many things that has happened that I just am grateful to be around, to have life and be able to um, enjoy with family and friends, just being present. And this like my favorite time of the year, right? November, December. Yeah, check me them time, because election time and festival time, yes. So this year we're gonna have a lot in store, and with God's blessing and grace, I'll be there in full effect. And the funniest thing is, these days, let me tell you what I have been going through. I have been looking in mirrors, right, and seeing my reflection and realizing how much I'm starting to look like my mother. And this is Ayo fact, because every place I go, yeah, stopping me and saying how much I look like Chucky, and you look like Chucky, and you look like Chucky. And I think my body said, okay, and boom, right? So now I walking around the place and I glancing and laughing to myself. So if I you see me laughing every time I pass a store in Sunny Isles and I see my reflection, it's because I am laughing because I'm like I see my mother, you know. Sometimes people tell you look like somebody and then you really see it and you're like, wow. And funny enough, I was flying on a plane and this guy told me, he said, as long as you are living, your mother is living. And I'm looking at him like, what are you talking about? And he says, he elaborated and he said, the way you look and, you look like her. So as long as you are living, she is living. So I get it. I get it. I get why you guys run up. I get why you get emotional. I get all of that. But I would like y'all to see me, and if that's what you see, get joy out of it. It's a confirmation that she was here and she's still around. In all of the things that we do. Every time you pay your power bill, she around, right? Every time um you have to pay that late fee because your power get cut and it's only $25, she's around. Anytime you look at the tourism revolving fund, she's around, right? Anytime you get an opportunity to go down to Great Pond and you could go there of your free will and enjoy yourself and do a little fishing, she's around. Anytime you go down to Louis E. Brown and you turn your key to your door, she's around. Anytime you go into your house down at Adventure or Castle Burke, she's around. There's so many things. Anytime you call a government agency and you hear a Spanish speaking individual that could talk to you, she's around. There's so many things that reminds me that she was here, not just my face. So I don't feel the sadness, I feel joy because she was a joyous person. And so she'll always make a joke, she'll always come out and help people. And so that is what I enjoy and that's what I remember. Greetings, John. Keeping in touch. Greetings, keeping in touch.
Greetings, greetings.
Hi, how are you?
I'm blessed. I'm just tuning in. I just want to say that it's a wonderful thing to wake up in paradise.
Absolutely. I was just getting
I
ready to
mean,
say
I'm
you
so
ain't say happy
grateful.
paradise today.
Yeah, happy Paradise Saturday.
Yes. Many
Another
happy returns.
beautiful Saturday in paradise, and I'm grateful. And well, there are lots happening. You
Oh
heard
yeah.
about D-List?
If I heard about
D-List. There's only one list that matters.
the list of candidates that will be running,
Yeah.
I have heard about the list. I have seen a copy of the list.
Somebody asked, I asked somebody, I said, have you heard of the list? I heard you on the list. And the person said, no, but I heard you on the short list. And I'm like, absolutely not.
Eh, eh, eh.
I'm
Well,
not. I want to educate. I want to be in a position to
speak freely.
inform, enlighten. Yes. And I will be observing and I focus on the process. People need to be educated on the process because there are a lot of misinformation out there. The people who present their opinions as facts. I know you have heard the result of the case that was filed against Raymond Williams, the chair.
Oh yes, I
I
spoke
mean,
about
there
it
was
last week.
people so adamant on the radio, practically had him convicted. And I was saying, people, your opinion is just that. When it comes down to a legal dispute, the only opinion that matters is that of a judge. That's it.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's terrible the way some people go out their way to denigrate other Virgin Islanders. I mean, what kind of culture is this?
Well,
That's
I
what
think
I'm
one of the
saying.
things is that we need to understand that we don't have to be friends. We just come to do a job. You know, the
Exactly.
personalities and all of that, the distractions are unnecessary.
I mean, the way they went after him, I believe he has sufficient grounds to file a counter lawsuit
Well,
for
let me ask this question. Didn't they
harassment and defamation of character.
did the chair is appointed based on the board decision, right? You don't just become the chair of the board.
The chair is elected. The chair of the Board of Election is elected by
If
a
members
majority of the board members.
correct. And
You
so
have to establish a quorum.
my question is if they have such an issue, why not go through the avenue of challenging him with the board rules? And I'm just trying to figure out why did it go to court.
Because this is my opinion.
Hmm.
When you do these political tactics, you become popular. People say, oh, that's a fighter. You know, the
Hmm.
political stuff like, I'm going to throw a temper tantrum because there's no ballot box here for me to put my ballot in there. I'm not going to put my ballot in and stop you later. And you get the attention. That's politics. Oh, you're a fighter. That's when people don't understand the process.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying I understand all the processes. I'm just saying the law is written. Everybody could have a different interpretation, but like I said, you don't present your interpretation or opinion as facts. Because my opinion was the same as what the judge ruled. I didn't see no conflict of interest. The judge asked, I was present in court for the entire proceedings.
Hmm.
Just like, do you expect the person who is director of lottery to be 24/7 on the job? I mean, like everybody else, the other board members have jobs.
Right.
Don't they? Don't they? Aren't you allowed when you're on a board? You're given the opportunity to go to that board without any repercussions, any docking or anything. That's part of it. That's in the statute, right?
Yes.
As a board member, you
He
get
has a
that
board
time.
member. But the thing is, I think they said there was a conflict of interest, but I couldn't on the face see any conflict. So I was
I didn't see none
wondering
either.
where that was going. But again, it was clarified in court. Um, the other thing was if the board was bringing this case to, or certain board members bringing this case to the court, then a board member themselves represented the board. I thought that was kind of interesting that they allowed that. But
But
uh,
the person who acted as the attorney, and I said this, he who has himself a lawyer has a fruitful client. When you go pro se in such a matter, then you're making such serious allegations against somebody and portraying them as a despicable character, not a law abiding citizen. You better have an attorney to represent you because you're putting somebody's reputation there on the line, and it's not nice. And you already have your feelings, but the court not interested in feelings. They don't care what's the popular view on the radio station, the radio show. They don't care. They're not interested in your feelings and not hearsay and your opinion. They want evidence.
right.
And I told him that the evidence just outside so Andrew. He wants evidence. Can't just say, I feel this way, I think so, I believe so. No. Present the evidence. They
Yeah.
didn't present no evidence, just pure allegation
Mm-hmm.
and They had the day in court, and still you got board members confused about the result. Still. And I said they should have stayed, our board members should have been there to the very end to hear the entire court proceeding.
I would have said the same thing. If you so confused before, then you should have been present. But listen, I have a history with the Board of Elections. I feel like I am a honorary employee of the Board of Elections because the amount of times I had to go there with the Honorable Alicia Chucky Hansen, boy, let me tell you, sit down in there, had to look at count, all these things. I telling you, go to court. I have had my fair share of time in there, and so nothing really surprises me when it comes to the Board of Election. But I would hope and pray that they can really, get to work and put the egos aside because it's so important, especially that we're getting ready to go into another election season. um, Candidates are now going to be potential candidates. Let me say, are now looking and weighing if it makes sense for them to get into this thing because where there's a lot of confusion, there is a lot of hesitance to participate. So I'm hoping that we don't have any more cases and no trials and all
Well,
of
there's
this
one
before.
statement because there was a lawsuit filed in Washington, D.C.
Right.
by
Yeah.
candidate who lost for delegate to Congress.
Right.
Why did she file to Washington, D.C.? Because she mistakenly thinks the U.S. Constitution makes her eligible to run for delegate to Congress of the Virgin Islands of the United States. Although she's an inhabitant of New York. I'm like, wait, is it just me? Does anyone else see a problem with that? How you could be filing a lawsuit and you want $5.5 million from Carolyn Fox, the supervisor of election, and you have never paid property taxes in the Virgin Islands? I want to know for the people that voted for that candidate, tell me why would you vote for somebody who does not live where they want to represent? Does that make sense to you? She going by the U.S. because she will be in Washington, D.C. as delegate to Congress. No, that's not how it works. You have to go by the laws of the Virgin Islands, what tells you who's eligible to run, and one of the requirements, and it's still confused about that. You have to be an inhabitant of the Virgin Islands of the United States to run for delegate to Congress for the Virgin Islands of the United States. I don't see no confusion in no other unincorporated territory. They don't call them delegate to Congress in Puerto Rico. They call resident commission. But can you imagine a Puerto Rican voter voting for somebody that never lived in Puerto Rico?
Well, we know that would not happen. We know that would happen.
Somebody in Guam would vote for a person who never lived in Guam, never paid no taxes in Guam, or in American Samoa, or what's the other one? I think not the Latin Mariana Islands. Then you have to elect a person from those territories to go to Congress to represent you. They have to be a resident of the place, an inhabitant. And anyway, the case is being, and anybody could read it, was on a WTJX. So this is, you don't have to take my word for it.
It's to our jurisdiction.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, because it's in a run jurisdiction. So that is a matter that's pending, and I hope that is clarified before the next election. So we don't want to go into the next election with these controversies where people not certain, and then you have board of election members from they're on the board, but they're going to promote that voting this voting system is not safe, and the only way it's gonna be safe is by putting your vote in a vote box, a ballot. I mean, that doesn't make sense to go back. And they end up using the word going back to how it was 20 years ago, whatever.
Hmm.
I can't remember. I don't remember going back in a general election. Maybe that. I mean, am I this young? Have you ever recall a time when in a general election there was a wooden box and you put your paper ballot in the box?
I
How
don't.
far back is that?
I don't remember seeing any wooden. Let me think. I have not. I have seen where they use these containers where they put the tie. The pull rod. What would you call them? Zip ties.
Tyrod?
Zip,
Yes,
the
the
zip ties.
yes.
And they used to have a code. They would be red, and they had a number code to each one. And so they would use that. But I've never remember seeing a wooden box. I might have been too young for that, but not to my memory.
But
They
that's why I understand the one a
well,
vociferous minority, they want a wooden box. You put the as a choice and you put your paper ballot in that. And they want as the election polls close for the ballots to be removed from the box and be counted at each polling site.
mm,
If everybody does that, I mean, like they said, it's a choice. But let's say, when will we get the results? I want
well, that was one of
2026. I want
that
the
was one of the
results.
issues because in addition to securing these ballots and one of the things that they used to stop counting and then you had to wait again till the next day and all of this. Listen, I don't know. I don't know what the people want, but the general consensus that I've come across has been that people are fine with the way it is. That is not to say that
Tabulators.
that's everybody, but the majority of the people that I have been approached by thinks it's fine the way it is now. But
And those who put it in a box like that, I hope they understand. If your ballot is spoiled, it's spoiled. It won't be counted. The tabulator prevents spoiled ballots because it cannot go in there if you have something to correct. If you overvoted, as you recall, that same candidate delegate to Congress, did she call your show? I I
yeah,
recall. She called your show and admit she overvoted. I remember that.
well, and here's the thing: politics is a serious thing because, and this is a general statement. There are some politicians that benefit from spoiled ballots. And I know that was a thing back in the day when they used to have things like symbol voting, when they used to have all kind of different situations. Because when you, for instance, if you used to symbol vote on a ballot and you would vote for some independent candidate or no party candidate, for instance, Chucky Hansen, your ballot is spoiled because what when you vote with a symbol, it already highlights the seven in that category.
Exactly.
And so that was one of the things that used to happen back in the day.
And she
So
probably lost a lot of votes
she
because
lost
she
a
was
lot of
not a
votes that way
Democrat.
because what happened is when they would be manually counting these ballots, we would have to. I was the one of them when I was old enough. I would have to sit down and listen to the entire count, and she lost many votes that way because people did not understand that once you symbol voted, that basically covered all your votes in the category. So there was a lot of things going on. That was just one example. So yes, the tabulator and the way I would set up now is to prevent also spoiled ballots.
And they have an issue still. If I know you part of or you're a chair of a board, correct?
Correct.
The taxi commission.
Yes.
When you're part of a board everybody's not going to agree. But I think everybody should, at least all the board members should be on the same page when it comes to the rules, like with the quorum. My understanding from what I got in the court is a quorum for the Board of Election is established for a regular meeting if you have at least 8 members, regardless of whether they're from the St. Croix district or the St. Thomas.
Yeah, because it's one board now. It's not before where it used to be split.
It's one board.
Yeah.
And this part about you have to have 3 from each district. That is only applicable when it is a board meeting to adopt new rules and regulations. But apparently, some of the board members still don't get it. Even after the court case, they come up after an excuse, the judge didn't understand. The attorney lied. The defense attorney Timmons lied. I mean, I'm hearing all kinds of excuses. They didn't really go in there to win. Which attorney go into a case to lose? You know, the attorney, I'm going to do this court case because I want to lose. I think attorneys
Yeah, I don't
want to
think
win.
that was the
They
case
want to
at
win.
all.
So how can I excuses they come in with? The bottom line is justice prevailed. They had the day in court. The allegations were proven false. They didn't present any evidence. Raymond Williams is still serving. That's a fact.
Yeah.
As director of the lottery, he's still serving as the chair. And the process is there. Anybody want to remove a a member of the Board of Election, you have something called recall. And we're still governed by the Revised Act of 1964, and we
So here's the issue.
until we get our own constitution.
Here is my issue, and this is becoming a regular occurrence, and that's why I'm mentioning it. I have a very big problem with people participating in the election process. And then when the person they wanted to be victorious isn't victorious, then all of a sudden something is wrong with the process.
Yeah, something's wrong with the system.
And then we go and we attack. And then we go and we attack persons that are duly elected by the people of the Virgin Islands. I believe it's very insulting. I don't have to like the candidate or support the candidate, but for you to then target the individual because you have a problem with them. And actually what you're doing is slapping the people in the Virgin Islands face by saying, yeah, we know that you chose this person, but we're gonna allow this person to operate in that function because we don't like it. I have an issue with that. If you're elected by the people of the Virgin Islands to serve, and like you said, there are avenues if you want to recall, if you want to get the person removed, there is a process for that. But to decide that you're not going to honor their position, their post, wherever they were elected to do, because you just don't respect that they were elected by the people to do it, that's a problem. You know, in the situation with Mr. Williams, okay, it's obvious that they have some personal rifts going on with the individual, but again, he was elected for the position. And then we have other situations where a person is elected, but then they don't allow them to operate in their capacity and these kind of things. It's pure foolishness. If you want the person to be removed, then go the legitimate route and remove them. And any chairperson on a board, the board has the ability to change the chair. So I don't know what the deal is there. But
It's politics.
again,
They candidate, they get
politics.
in, they using it. It's just my view. Um, Political tactics for the upcoming election to see. Oh, we fought the system. We want elections to be um, fair. So let's portray this as There's just something wrong with the system.
But you know what I think is going to start to happen because this is becoming the norm for a lot of areas. They're gonna start to have to stipulate who's qualified to be on these boards and all of these things because if you don't understand the basic way the board operates, how are you able to function?
Well, that's up to the voters. You have to vet your candidates because
And here is my thing. Again, we have to pay attention. And I'm not speaking specifically to this board, I'm talking in general. You have to pay attention to who you're electing for any office because they need to have a basic knowledge of what the position requires, the rules and the regulations of their area. People might think that oh you could wing it. There are some areas where it is not in the people's best interest for you to wing it. I shouldn't be sitting down and having to tell you that supposed to be the subject expert. This is how it go when we're in a public forum. That's not first of all it's counterproductive. But it doesn't look good. And we have to remember it's not just Virgin Islands looking at these meetings or hearings or whatever it is going on. They're on a public forum streamed around the world. So people, we have to really take into account who we elect for whether it's a board and some of us um we go in to vote and we just totally skip those areas. We totally skip those areas. We don't look, we don't research into who's running for board thing like border election or border education. We don't think it's so important and we skip them. And then
mhm.
when the time comes and decisions are made, we upset. How you gonna get upset?
Or even those who say they ain't voting, period.
So
They
that's a
got
whole lot of
more
ball game.
complaints out of everybody.
That's a
They
whole
saying
lot of
right,
ball game.
dying right, but then in the same breath, I'm not voting. What kind of message they sending to young people?
Well, we
You
see the
know,
message because the young people aren't participating at all.
I guess they're walking, so I guess this very same thing they don't want happen is but what's going to happen is you're going to have Democrats remain in power dominant because the people who are going to vote, the older ones, the statistics show majority of voters register as a Democrat.
Yeah.
So most likely they will elect Democrats. It makes sense to me. And that's why I would tell someone, it's brutal on some of the talk shows. It's brutal. The anti-democracy, anti-democrat, anti the Brian Roach administration. I mean, they are brutal. They go to the gutter, tearing apart their own fellow Virgin Islanders who are registered as Democrats and voters. They call them what? They're not educated voters.
Hmm.
But the same result is going to happen because they're the ones that are voting.
Well,
You're not
statistically,
encouraging
if
the
the
young
major
people
if
to go
ninety
vote.
percent of your voting block is Democrat, you're gonna be voting Democrat anyway.
Exactly,
You
so the
know,
result will be
so
the same.
so if you
So if
want
you
to
want
see
the
a
result
change,
change, encourage the young people to
right?
register. And if that you believe registering as a Democrat is the problem, then you let it register what you think is best. But I don't promote no particular party, and I'm not promoting no particular candidate. My push is get register, be informed, make up your own mind, and if because well, in the case of my close ones, friends and family who are not as politically astute, they rely on my guidance. And like
Right.
ultimately it's your choice. But I could tell you this is what I know about these candidates. But I mean I wouldn't publicly endorse any candidate, but I tell them this is what I know. Now, If you want to go along with what I'm telling you, fine. But ultimately, you are the one that's going in there and making that decision. So be very careful. And if you have buyer's remorse, always remember it's only every 2 years.
Right.
Because like this particular senator, 2 years. You
Yeah.
can watch, monitor for yourself, take your own notes. Yeah, I'm not speaking on nobody's behalf. I'm not campaigning for nobody. I think we intelligent. We can make up our own mind. I'm not putting on nobody for their choice. And I just hope that we could just understand we are in this together. And we may not have the same political ideologies, but I do think in general, most of us want to see a better Virgin Islands. And if we could, some of us could just put on the pitchfork and just focus on that. Don't focus on the individual and do your part. Do your part in how you can make the Virgin Islands a better place. And those who are not even registered voters, who could call from the states and tear on the Virgin Islands, all I have to say to them is, so sorry you missed it because I know it's the most exquisite place in the world and you missed it. And because you can't be a part of it, you think you're going to destroy it? Nah. Be in your own misery like company, but this Virgin Islands of the United States, I believe, I believe it could be better. It could be better if those of us who truly care, participate in the process and instead of just trying to tear down Democrats and all of that.
But I want to ask you this, educator. Since we on the subject of representation, we have the sixth constitutional convention happening, and I know there was some talks about possibly asking for extension. Do you know anything about what's taking place now?
No, I've been asking about that. If they got granted an extension for more money or whatever, but I could say this, I am disappointed in these 15 delegates to the Sixth Constitutional Convention. You need to tell me, this is our sixth attempt. You had the fifth draft to review, if my understanding is correct, of the legislation. Review, use any part of it, same thing for the Revised Organic Act. What were you doing? What were you doing? Reinventing the wheel? What are you doing coming up with new language? Just review what's in front of you, delete what needs to be deleted. The part about you got to be an ancestral native Virgin Islander or native Virgin Islander to run for governor. Just delete it. It takes months to do that. I don't understand. What are they doing? I don't know. I'm like,
I'm not sure what's happening, but I haven't heard
I
another word
believe in
about it.
compromise. Okay, if you feel you need more time, you're supposed to submit the document. My understanding deadline is the end of this month, October.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand if you say, all right, we're going to give you until the end of this year, 2025, and no more. We're not going to prolong this and go into 2026. The legislature is going to go synodize. Eventually, all you're going to have is the senators trying to squeeze through the window. Amendment bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going out. What more time you need on that? And then if you say you want more time, don't ask for no more stipend. You cut off time is December. If you want more time, use your time. Don't use the public funds because I would feel violated. I would feel betrayed that there was a set amount, a set time given, but I could compromise and present at this moment, present to the public what you have done so far. I want to see what you have done so far. Not for me. I mean, I could go, I have access to the website to go and see. But the average Virgin Islander is not going to no website and going to no team meeting or no Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
But if you put it in a newspaper, one flyer to be distributed, I'm like, look, I'm not buying no, what is $1 now? The daily news or $2, whatever it is. I am not buying it. However, you have the Facebook. You have all kind of different ways you could be able to publish this information and tell us what you have accomplished at this point. Because most
Well, what
people,
would they use as a consideration to give an extension? Would be my question.
because they finish whatever they were
No, no,
working
no.
on.
What I'm saying, whoever they're requesting the extension from, or that legislature, I'm assuming,
Yeah,
what would be what the legislature would be looking for in order to grant an extension?
I think they will, I mean, we're looking to go back over and ask them, well, did you all understand the assignment? Did you all understand this of the legislation? And go with them, like, this is what the legislation says.
And then what happens if they
Review.
decide, okay, we're not giving the extension?
Well, at this point, if they're not giving the extension, well, today is the October 25th.
Mm-hmm.
By Monday, I don't think there should be any delay. By Monday, the legislature should say yes, an extension or no extension, and let it wrap up. But at this point, you have people in the dark. You know, we don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on, and the public, you're gonna lose public trust because it's like, hey, all this time, all this money, and make a decision. Don't have this matter like a stalemate. It's like we're going back over again, the same thing. There was a delay with the fifth draft. First, it was John P. Young. I'm not praising, I'm not denouncing or anything. I'm just stating facts. It was delayed because the Young did not immediately send the document off. Probably political reason, probably helping get elected to a second term. But the fact is, document was delayed. Then when it went up there, again it was delayed because the U.S. Justice Department found 9 areas of concerns that need to be addressed. For whatever reason, the Fifth Constitutional Convention did not reconvene and address those 9 areas of concern. So there was more delay. Then it took a long time before somebody.
Well, we're not getting to the whole history of it. Well, I want to know what's gonna happen now as we have a few days left. I wonder if they formally asked for an extension. I haven't heard anything. So anybody that may know could call back and say, call in and say what's going on with that. But I'm going to let you run.
Maybe they need to call in, we're listening, you know.
Yeah, and let us know what's the update.
Any member of the Sixth Constitutional Convention call in and give us an update. It's free to call.
Right. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too. So I wanted to jump into, as we know, there's a lot going on in the Caribbean with the United States ramping up their military presence in the Caribbean. There's discussions being had and words being thrown. Long story short, we have to pay attention here. We're right in the heart of the thing, and you know that we're the go-to when it comes to the region. Uh, you know, we're the closest. So there's a story here where it says bodies bearing burn marks wash ashore in Trinidad as U.S. expands narco terror strikes across the Caribbean. Okay, says President Trump affirmed that U.S. strikes against Caribbean narcotics networks will continue without a formal war declaration, citing the Southern Caribbean campaign's use of existing legal authorities and warning the campaign may soon expand onto land. Ay, 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 ay. Okay. Two corpses, one with burn marks on its face and both missing limbs, have washed ashore on Trinidadian beaches in recent weeks, deepening concerns that the dead may be victims of U.S. airstrikes on vessels accused of drug trafficking. Villagers near the site where the bodies were discovered believe they were among those killed in one of the first U.S. maritime strikes launched in early September. Despite mounting unease, Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Vizirzar has issued no public comment, even as her government remains supportive of Washington's widening military campaign in the region. The discoveries coincide with escalating U.S. operations targeting uh, alleged narco terrorists. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth confirmed another airstrike this week against a seafaring vessel, marking the 10th since the campaign began. The Pentagon says the strike formed part of the administration's counter narcotics initiative, which President Donald Trump has vowed to continue without congressional approval. Um, so we have what we said. This is more than Rugudu. This is big thing going on here in the Caribbean, and they said earlier that um, you know the head of state of Trinidad, which would be Minister Kamala, um, hasn't said much recently, and I think that she would be right to not say much recently, given that a lot of the persons in her island state of Trinidad and Tobago aren't too happy about what's taking place, given that this thing may end up in their backyard. Well, it has now. If you say you have body corpses washing up on the beaches, and there are growing concerns by the people in the region about having military engagement on land. And so at this point, all we can do is pray for them, pray that somehow this thing comes to a close and we don't see any further loss of life. There is now tensions on the mainland United States in Washington about this from Republicans as well. Um, Concerns that we are expending a lot of military support in the region, and you know there is a lot of back and forth about that. But I just pray that through it all that we can um, find a way to dissolve this issue. I start to think about all the areas around the world that narcotics are being trafficked from. I am concerned about these are still our Caribbean neighbors, and I'm just hoping that there is some sort of merit to them actually carrying narcotics, because if they weren't carrying narcotics, that would be a whole other ball game, you know. But definitely sad all around. You know, historically we used to see that boats would be stopped, people would be prosecuted. So this is definitely a change of the way that we address narcotics. Um, but I'd never been a proponent to be um, celebratory about people losing their lives. You know, I have to believe also that there are people that are fearful just to get in their boats at this point to go fishing, and that's another area that may be suffering the livelihood of fishermen, because I know if I was a fisherman I was not going in the water right now. And so what do you do if that's your only source of income? You know, so there are all these things, these questions and concerns about what are we doing, you know. And it's sad because for a long time we thought of the Caribbean as, you know, that one area in the world that is continuous paradise, right? We don't have to worry about military defense and war and all of these things. And now in real time, we're seeing that we're being pushed into that sort of situation that we once were historically, where these islands would be utilized for military defense support and all of that kind of stuff. And it's, you know, opening some old wounds. Um, but we're just praying for the best and hoping that our neighbors down in Trinidad, um, you know, Venezuela, even Guyana, you know, the entire area and Caribbean, we're looking and we're hoping for the best out of this. But something has got to give at some point. And so that's all I could say about that right there. We're hoping that everyone could come to have valid discussions. You know, there's talks about overthrowing the head of Venezuela and whether he's legitimate or not, and all of those concerns. And if you're my age, you've seen these kind of things happen before with other governments. But it is very sad to be living through it right now. There's another story I'm going to read here about the Senate approves Brian's pick for WAPA and the Historic Preservation Boards. The Committee on Rules and Judiciary advanced Governor Bryan's nomination of financial analyst John Foy to WAPA's board and attorney Mark Whitnick to the Historic Preservation Commission, citing the experience as vital to reform and revitalization efforts. And then they have pictures of both persons there. The Senate Committee on Rules and Judiciary on Thursday approved two nominations from Governor Albert Bryan Jr. for two boards that are critical to the territory's development. First up for consideration was Joan Foy's nomination to the VI Water and Power Authority Board of Directors. A lifelong professional, Ms. Foy has served the Virgin Islands in numerous capacities. Most relevant to her nomination, however, was her tenure as WAPA's financial analyst and later the manager of budget and cash. And then we're going to go down to um, the second nominee. So, second in line to defend his nomination was Mark Whitnick, identified by the governor for the Virgin Islands Historic Preservation Commission. Having relocated to the territory approximately 9 years ago, Mr. Whitnick owns two historic properties in St. Thomas, including Hotel 1829, an iconic property that was shuttered for years. He told lawmakers that his family has done much of the work ourselves to restore this historic gem and works closely with the HPC to ensure the renovations are in line with local regulations. He affirmed that the HPC has been a hindrance to progress, but rather a what did he say? Hindrance to progress, but rather a quadrille that guides our renovations to ensure that it honors the history of the property and of downtown Charlotte Mali. So we have two new board members serving there, well, nominated. Um, there was another story. So we have former Home Depot employee arrested for embezzlement, thousands from St. Croix store. So the person is in custody after admitting to stealing around $5,000 while working as a cashier. The BIPD's Economic Crimes Unit said surveillance showed her pocketing cash from her register. She faces multiple felony charges. Uh, this is this is becoming a thing. According to the VIPD Department's Economic Crimes Unit, an investigation began on September 20th, 2025, after the company filed an embezzlement complaint. Investigators determined that frequently embezzled funds on several occasions. Surveillance footage reportedly showed the person removing cash from their register and placing it in their pocket. When questioned by the store management, they allegedly confessed to the theft, telling investigators they had taken approximately $5,000. Well, so what is this? Following the investigation, an arrest warrant was issued on October 23rd, 2025, at around 10:23 a.m. They surrendered at the Wilbur H. Francis Command Police Station, where they were advised of their rights, served with their warrant, and taken into custody without incident. They were booked and charged with embezzlement by employee, obtaining money by false pretense, grand larceny, and access to a computer for fraudulent purposes. Greetings, Jaron. Keeping in touch.
And good morning to you.
Good day, good day. How art thou?
How I'm fine.
Awesome.
Yes. I don't know. I almost forgot the show was on today. I was on earlier with Jamila, and I
I
got
notice you always
completely.
forgetting me, but that's all right.
Well, not necessarily.
I'm
It's just that
unforgettable.
I was involved in so much paperwork, and I just look up at the clock. I said, "My God, I haven't called you. I haven't called." I see I called Jamila again.
You
I
see,
called
yeah, I think you got a crush on, huh? That's what's going on.
it. Oh boy, I did
Mm.
in trouble now, boy.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. So early on her show, there was some mention about the rum from Oklahoma,
More
which I
rugudu?
like. Huh?
Some more rugudu?
Yeah, which
Okay.
I like to say should have been titled the rum from under.
Hmm.
Maybe that way we would have been getting the exact amount that we're supposed to be getting for this for 2 gallon of rum.
Hmm.
However, the discussion this morning on the Rubudu centered around, I believe, a group that's pushing the see for the governorship, saying that it was Stacey's doing that caused it to come back to maybe the 1325, I think it was. No, I don't know about that. What I do know is that Delegate Clark giving up on the 1050 with the wrong cover over as she did with the mail service to the Virgin Islands. And I speak specifically about, and I had mentioned before, when I served as Chief of Staff to Attorney Victor Fraser in House of Representatives, we realized that going to Puerto Rico to tell them that we could sort our own mail and WhatsApp, and they would just say, yeah, okay, we know that wasn't going to cut it. So what Fraser and I did, we went to USPS in DC, and we presented a proposal to which the Virgin Islands could have a small sorter to sort our own mail, and not looking for a big sorter as Puerto Rico has to gain quota. And, unfortunately, Fraser only served one term, and then when he left, that dropped, and I have discussed this matter with delegates, Dr. Christensen, who happens to be a friend of mine, and for some time it seemed as if she picked up the lead, but then shortly after it just happened the same way. Keep going back to Puerto Rico with your hat in hand and on your knees, begging them. So with the rum cover over thing, it seems to have it's going the same way, or have gone the same way, because Delegate Plaskett, she for some time, as I understand, was saying that the 1050 situation is a foregone conclusion, and that's where it would remain. She wasn't looking for the 1325, 1350 neither.
Mm-hmm.
So what it ended up saying, and Jamila was so correct, I wrote a piece congratulating her, because she's saying that a lot of people misunderstand the position of the delegate to the House of Representatives. Some say to the Congress, but the point is not a Congress person, the delegate to the House of Representatives. And that's so, and I know that, and I found that out to myself, being Chief of Staff, because, but one thing I know must happen, it must happen with the delegate and the governor and the entire three branches of government. They must be able to work harmoniously on behalf of the people, but that didn't work, because you find for the most part, the ones that are governors at the time are afraid that the delegates being in Washington is getting their shine and would want to oppose them for the governorship. So if you have that kind of Tululu, then who gets hurt again, like in the fight with the elephant, isn't it the ants that the small people there?
Mm.
So we have to be careful, and we all have our roles to play. And one thing I said, because I myself had about a run for the delegate seat, but then I abandoned it. But my thing was, and I believe it should be, that the delegate is well respected and recognized for what his or her position is, and that their main thing is to, number one, know and have knowledge of all federal funding. And I'm sure you know what is a NOFA, not a NOFA like for personnel, a NOFA. It's a NOFA of funding availability. And that, when I was with Fraser, as I said, in DC, we used to send those things out every week, every month, sometimes every week. So the department and agencies back home. Because they need to know. Now, you can't tell the governor which funds he should apply for or not, or in federal people, you could suggest that this would be something good. But that they don't want to do it, you can't keep them into doing it, you see. And the other thing, as I say, and I will go after this, the delegate position plays a very good part in being not only in Washington, but being in the House of Representatives is to usher through any funding request from the Virgin Islands, as well as to give intro into department and agencies from any head of the government department in the Virgin Islands or their staff. And it did very well when I was there with Fraser. And he was the type of guy I suspect, being that he had worked in the Congress for 30 years before he decided to run. He was well known. So for him to bypass a secretary in transportation, just say hi to her, driving me along, going to the director, it was not uncommon for him to do. He wasn't show-offish, he wasn't negative. But they know that this is the kind of relationship he had with the top head. You know, they have to sit outside the desk waiting and hoping they'll see him. You see? So that's what I have to say for today, and I'll listen to the rest of the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You do the same.
Thanks. I wanted to get into this bill that I've been hearing about with the lowering of the age for kindergarten. Um, and so there's a story here I'm going to read, and then I'm going to give my opinion. Bill to lower kindergarten age to 4 held after lawmakers, educators warn of developmental and funding risk. Senator Alma Francis Heiliger's proposal to begin formal education at age 4 instead of, and I think they meant to say 5 here, faced broad opposition from educators and agencies who said the move could disrupt Head Start programs, strain teachers, and place unready children in classrooms too soon. Despite not having expected amendments that would drastically overhaul proposed legislation to lower and mandatory entry age for kindergarten, Senator Alma Francis Heiliger kept the bill on Wednesday's agenda anyway, citing the importance of having this frank discussion. Bill 36-0069 seeks to change the age a child begins kindergarten from 5 years old to 4. Senator Frances Halliger told her colleagues on the Committee on Education and Workforce Development that she had been researching the educational structures and arrangements in other jurisdictions. The proposed legislation came about following her conclusion that we need to make adjustments as it relates to how we attempt to educate our students. One of those necessary adjustments, argued Frances Heiliger, is mandating a formal set of education from age 4 and not 5. She argued that enrolling them early could offer a better chance, in my opinion, of potentially helping our students to get better scores. Invited testifiers, however, countered that the negative outcomes far outweigh any potential benefits. Abigail Hendricks Kagan is a member of the Board of Education. She reminded lawmakers that a pre kindergarten framework is already regulated by law, and implementing Bill 36-0069 risks destabilizing programs that are already carefully regulated by law. Pre-K programs are intended for children ages 3 to 5 years. As Ms. Hendricks Kagan noted, the compulsory education law fixes age 5 as a standard because it balances developmental readiness with educational opportunity. Emotional and developmental readiness was a recurring theme in each testimony, so too was the potential human resource burden. Ms. Hendricks Kagan testified that there is a territory-wide shortage of qualified early childhood educators, and many educators are already eligible for retirement. Implementing Senator Frances Heiliger's proposed legislation would mean kindergarten classes would expand. Our classrooms are not our classrooms are not uniformly equipped for 4-year-olds, and our curriculum are not designated for this age group. The Department of Education does not support the original iteration of the bill either. Younger children benefit from a later start to develop social and emotional maturity, which are crucial for academic success and overall well being. Commissioner Dion Wells Hedrington said she offered the results of several studies that allowed VIDE to conclude that students who enter kindergarten at a later age display stronger academic results in a later stage of development. Um, we see places like China who bring children in to do not just academia but day-to-day chores, what we call home economics trainings, as soon as they could walk. And so I'm wondering um, which basis you're using to bring out the guidance that if you just start them a year earlier, that is somehow going to be a detriment to their development. Introducing them earlier to structure would be detrimental to them. And why I'm having these questions is because I used to go to, my mother had five schools. Strong foundation allowed for children younger than 5 years old to attend school. And one of the reasons she created Strong Foundation was because she was told that children were too young to learn before the age of 5. And I think that there's enough persons out there who graduated from Strong Foundation to attest that they went through that uh, um, program, that school. Many of them are lawyers, doctors, you name it. Um, there are well-known individuals in this society that went through Strong Foundation and started school before the age of 5, and they're just fine. Not only are they just fine, they're thriving. And so I have a difference of opinion in that. The other thing is we have certain schools here in the territory that already allow for children, public schools, by the way, that already allow for children to attend um, before the age of 5. It's just not called kindergarten, right? Um, I know that Purby Larson is one of those locations that have that, and those children are doing amazing. So I understand that the I do understand the argument about having enough staffing. However, this is where we have to become innovative in our thinking and encourage our young Virgin Islanders who are graduating out of high school to pursue being educators and creating programs which will allow for a easy transition into a program that would allow them to become educators and give that additional support to the education system. Whether we come up with a stipend program, whether we allow that they get additional credits, whether we do a partnership with the University of the Virgin Islands, but there must be something because we're also saying that in the structure that we have now, we have many students that do not have the ability to read to the level that they should be reading at in our schools. And so I'm thinking if you give them a year of a head start, how could that be detrimental to their development? And so I would really like to see the statistics and the numbers because we could definitely just Google other societies that allow students to start before the age of 5, and they're thriving. They're the leading areas of mathematics and reading academia in the world. And so I'm curious now in reading that report, um, what statistics they really utilized. Ilma Rogers, good morning, and good morning to all of you joining us on the live stream. Greta Sebastian, I'll roll up and see who else. Amy Parker, good morning. Elaine Hansen, Barbara Harvey, good day. Renee Jackson, King Sal, good morning. Yvette Hansen, hi, how are you? Annette Evelyn, good morning to you. Naomi Maynard, morning. Let's not touch up this thing a little too much because let me tell you, bad luck. Burdell, morning again. Delica, Carlwood, good day. Okay, so Michael Evelyn, good morning. Carmen Lan, Lansicot, good morning. Shermaine Derwin, morning. Fantatola, Don Tito, good morning. Ilma Rogers says, Strong Foundation was my son engineer, was his first school. Yusef Francis is a big, oh God, you see, this is exactly why I try not to touch these comments. Uh, Let me see if I get back to what she was saying. Um, okay, I think I got it. Hold on. Anyway, I think that she was referring to some students that went to Strong Foundation School and what they became. Big electrician. Yeah, there is a few people that actually are holding positions right now in this government that came out of Strong Foundation. And I remember my mother being adamant about allowing a child to utilize their skills as early as they show the skills. You don't suppress it. So I remember learning how to do cursive before I went to kindergarten, how to write before I went to kindergarten, the articulation of the English language before I went to a formal school setting. And then uh, before 5 years old, I was at Strong Foundation as well. And so we were already being taught at a different level before we started kindergarten. And it just allowed us to expand on our skills from a very early age. I remember my daughter um, going to school and being told by the school that she had to stop writing cursive in kindergarten because at that age she should only be writing print. She should only be printing her letters and not writing in cursive, and so they wanted her to regress. And I'm happy that she had a teacher named Ms. Vidal who accepted her and allowed her to continue on with the skills that she had and not try to force her to slow down her progress in her academia just to fit into a mold that they had structured for who would be just now starting to learn how to write with a pencil at 5. So I appreciated her um, allowing her to continue to grow. And to this day, my daughter is able to excel at another level because she was able to hone in her skills from a very young age before she even started to go to school. And so I appreciate that encouragement from my mother to not stop my children from developing just because of age. If you see a child at 4 years old that can already hold a pencil and write in cursive and understand and comprehend and be able to do assignments, then why would you stop them and say, no, you have to wait an extra year? But everybody is different. And so I'm hoping that they can continue the discussion and really get the research done and let us look at what is possible. But I know for those of us who went to Strong Foundation, we came out swinging and we started school from before 5 years old. And I don't mean just running around in diapers and and playing with colors. We were doing actual assignments um, before 5 years old. And so I really encourage people to continue to have that discussion, bring all of the information, and um, look at different jurisdictions and see how they implemented it. You know, um, it's very important that we start to change the way we approach, especially given that we know that um, there are a lot of our students need that additional support and help. So I'm hoping that they would reconsider. So I am trying my best to avoid all this the press that's talking about um, death and death and death. Because I don't want to feel depressed today. Here's another story. This is in the island district of St. Thomas. After prior guilty plea, former credit union worker charged again in Liberty VI embezzlement case. 2 years after pleading guilty to computer access for fraudulent purposes, this individual surrendered to the Economic Crime Unit. Liberty VI says they issued over 20,000 in unauthorized credits, including to her own account. Bail was set as 35,000, 25% cash. On Monday, individuals surrendered to detectives of the Economic Crime Unit who were investigating a report of embezzlement by a Liberty VI employee. Liberty officials reported that the individual who had begun working at the telecoms company after resigning from St. Thomas Federal Credit Union amidst the investigation into her alleged embezzlement was in February of this year suspected of fraudulently crediting over 20,000 to Liberty customer accounts. The individual reportedly admitted to issuing the unauthorized credits, including to her own account. A warrant for their arrest was ultimately issued on October 9th on charges of embezzlement, grand larceny, and obtaining money by false pretenses. That should have said pretense, but okay. Smith's plea deal in 2023 spared her of similar charges, 2 counts of obtaining money by false pretense, grand larceny, and embezzlement, facing up to 10 years in prison and fines topping $10,000. They was instead handed a suspended sentence of 3 years incarceration, 50 hours of community service, and an order of restitution for $2,500, as well as $575 in associated costs and fees. The individual had been accused of fraudulently transferring monies from credit union customers into her own account. This is two separate situations, same individual. After the person surrendered on a fresh embezzlement charge this week, they appeared before Magistrate Paula Nurkatis, who set bail at 35,000 with 20% due in cash in order for her release from detention ahead of trial. Ah, boy, this is just becoming a thing that we need to get a handle on. So I think this is the last one I'm going to talk about because it's getting heavy. Federal sting at St. Thomas home nets multiple narcotics after meth shipment intercepted from California. You see, anyway, I'm gonna keep my opinion to myself on this narcotics thing. A fake meth package fitted with a tracking device led federal agents to this individual who was arrested after opening it in their apartment. The search uncovered crystal meth, cocaine, marijuana, heroin, and psychedelic mushrooms and packaging materials. St. Thomas. A coordinated federal sting operation involving multiple agencies led to the arrest of a woman accused of expecting a methamphetamine shipment sent through the mail to St. Thomas. The operation unfolded after customs officers at the Civil E. King Airport intercepted a suspicious package from California containing what appeared to be meth, triggering an undercover delivery that ended with the woman's arrest and the seizure of multiple types of narcotics. According to court records, the investigation began on October 17th when U.S. Customs and Border Protection (CBP) officers conducted a routine inspection of inbound mail. A drug detection canine alerted to a package addressed to a post box on Norgata, St. Thomas. When officers opened the parcel, they found a tumbler concealing two foil wrapped bundles filled with a white crystalline substance. Testing confirmed the material to be methamphetamine weighing five weighing 57.8 grams. CPB agents traced the post office box to several family members, including this individual, who became the focus of the sting. Officers removed the methamphetamine, replaced it with fake narcotics, and reassembled the package. They also installed a break wire device that would alert authorities the moment the parcel was opened. Huh. On October 22nd, agents from Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service coordinated the controlled delivery to the Alvaro de Lugo Post Office on St. Thomas. Law enforcement maintained surveillance as a known relative of the individual collected the altered parcel and took it to the family's residence. Later that evening, agents observed the individual arrive at the home. Shortly afterward, the break wire alerted signaled that the package had been opened. Acting on an anticipatory search warrant, agents entered the property and located the individual in a small apartment style suite beneath the main house with the open package in their possession. Their family members confirmed to investigators that they was the sole occupant of the apartment. During the search, agents discovered a variety of suspected narcotics, including crystal methamphetamine or cocaine, marijuana, heroin, psychedelic mushrooms, along with packaging materials, small baggies, glass vials, digital scales, empty capsules, and raw chemicals consistent with drug distribution. This individual was taken into custody and charged with possession of controlled substance with intent to distribute. They appeared before U.S. Magistrate Judge Emil Henderson III, who appointed a federal public defender to represent them. A preliminary hearing in the matter is scheduled for Friday morning. This was published, um, let me see, it was published October 25th, which was this morning. This morning. So I'm trying to figure out what's happening here with my screen.
Did it flip?
Yes, and I have been over here like not even paying attention. Sorry, you guys. I don't even know how that happened. Uh, but we are at the top of the hour, and that has been going on. That has been going on in our territory. There are a lot of positive things as well. And of course, we will be here next week, same time, same place, here on Keeping in Touch with My People on WSTX AM 970. Of course, I am your host, Elizabeth Hansen Watley, your Commissioner of SOCA, also your Assistant Commissioner at the Department of Tourism, saying have an amazing rest of your weekend, a safe week. Until next week, with God's grace, I'll be here. I want you to do something great for someone. Be better whenever you're dealing with anybody in this world, because you just never know what is to come your way. I love you guys. Till next week. Bye.